Hey guys, and today we're just going to dive in and talk about HTML5. Now, the current kind of official spec of HTML is HTML 4.01, and specifically the most semantic version, if you could call it that, is HTML 4.01 strict. Now that came out, as I understand it, in the 90s. There was also XHTML, which is more valid, and I would argue that everybody should be writing in. But XHTML is kind of a subset of that, and there's this new thing kind of floating around the web called HTML5. It's a kind of a draft of a new standard given out by the W3C that I'm going to give some information on today because it has some really cool stuff in it. Now, it's important to note that although all this stuff is really cool, you shouldn't really use it on your websites at the moment if you want to rely on your content actually being viewed, because I guarantee that there's not one of these techniques that is available in every browser, and I'll kind of go through that as I show this example. It's a bit difficult to show an example some of the stuff because on some of the stuff I can't find a web browser that supports a given technique yet. But I'm going to show you one of the popular ones, and there are some that are viable to use because they only exclude one browser. But if we just dive in and look at the example that I've prepared, this is the example I've prepared. It's a screencast, and it looks like there's just a bunch of stuff going on, a bunch of elements. I should first point out a very useful resource. It's dev.w3.org/html5/spec. What it basically does is goes through everything, literally everything you can do in HTML5 and everything that you're going to be able to do in HTML5. Now, I read somewhere that they reckon that HTML5 will be an official standard by 2022. Now, that's not validated, but if you think about that, we're not yet at 2010, and even when we're at 2010, that's 12 years until they reckon that we're going to be able to use HTML5 the full spec, and it's going to be a standard spec. Now, things like this take time, and if you think about it, more than 12 years of time, so that's important to know. But there's some really cool stuff that you might want to look at. So that's what we're going to do today. The prospect of HTML5 is all about refining the existing HTML spec because it came out in the 90s. So a lot of the stuff is kind of old school, and as I was saying before, it takes a while to refine the spec, and they've obviously learned a lot more on how they can make the web a better place. So that's what we're going to go through today. I've got a project file opening text right here, and if you look at this, there's just a series of tags. Now, some of these tags you will have seen before, but some of them you won't. HTML5 is all about describing things in the right way. Now, an example of this is the nav tag. What the nav tag basically will do in HTML5 is wrap some menu items and have them display default as nav. The one that I want to go through first, specifically the tag that I want to go through first because it's probably the most used, of all the examples that I've got to show you. There's this video element. So what HTML5's all about is describing stuff in a better way, not in such a generic way. If I drag this video file in here, look at the code that we need to do this. Now, TextMate, my editor, is going to be all helpful and generate the code for us. But look at all the code we need to generate there. We have an object code, which is really generic. You use it for Flash, you use it for all kind of things. And then we have a parameter name, which is the source, and this is all just kind of clunky. So what they've come up with is a specific thing for a specific tag for video in HTML5. Well, we're going to say, no, this isn't just an object with a bunch of stuff applied to it. We see video as important enough to give it its own element. So it's basically like an image. You give it video element with a series of attributes. We have an src attribute which points to the video. We have a controlled attribute which is set to true. And when we look at it in the browser, you'll see what that does, but we can actually set it to controls. That's the proper notation for it. And now we've got another attribute that says autoplay false. Now, this is all defined in HTML, so describes what the content is on the page rather than making it look generic. So imagine how easy this is to insert a video on your own site. You just insert one more video on your thing. You don't have to worry about Flash. You don't have to worry about JavaScript. You don't have to worry about any of this other stuff, because it's just a tag in the HTML spec that you place in. I'm gonna take you to a browser that supports this, which in my case is going to be Safari 4, because that's a new browser and it supports this stuff. And if we refresh, there's something funky going on here, but that's basically the video player that the video element has inserted, but it's not showing it. So let's have a look back at my source code here. If you want to know what this fallback text is, that is precisely what it is, because most browsers aren't gonna view this yet. Firefox, and Safari, the latest versions, can view these elements. As that's not working, let me just go to a page that I have prepared here on the Safari browser page, where you can see this video element in action. All they've done is embedded a video element, because they know that the people visiting this page, i.e. the people downloading Firefox 3.5, which is the latest version which supports this HTML5 stuff, is that they know that they're going to be able to view that element, so they might as well just put their tag in. So if you're going to use all this new stuff that's only going to work in the latest browsers, you have to be smart about who's coming to view your page, and you have to restrict your audience majorly. That's why you can't really use it yet. So we have that nav thing describing that it's nav. We also have another popular one, the canvas tag, which allows a canvas for somebody to draw on. So that describes it like that. We have a video element, and then we have a footer. So that's an example, and just displays a generic text like it does in the paragraph tag. But now we're telling the browser that it's actually a footer, so it's more semantic, and we're telling them that those list items are actually nav, so it's more semantic. So if you go to the browser, this footer element, some footer text, looks exactly the same, but it's we can style that independently now without having to give it any special IDs, because it's not just a generic block of content like a div would be. We've told it that it's a footer, so the browser can do some stuff with it, and it's more semantic. As you've gathered, there's not much that I'm actually showing you here. That's the problem. Because I had some people ask me to do a video on HTML5, but this is the problem with doing a video on it, because a lot of the tags aren't actually supported yet, because it can create regions that the user can edit right in your code, and I haven't quite wrapped my head around why you'd use this yet, but it's this little thing that says, okay, you've got a paragraph tag, and aside from that, or as a little extra note, we're going to create an extra insertion that's not going to impede on the person's usage, and what we're going to insert is a paragraph tag, so that's going to be inside these insertion tags. This is all really abstract without actually working, but if we save that real quick, go over here and refresh, nothing happens because that browser doesn't yet support these tags. So I appreciate this was really abstract, but I hope you get an idea of what HTML5 is, how great it will be, but you'll have to wait until 2022 to build it into your websites. Thanks for watching.